Dr. Lisa Carter looked through the lab window at the blue planet below. Kepler 442b was beautiful, covered in strange plants that glowed softly in the alien sunlight. She had been studying these plants for 3 months now, and they still amazed her every day. "Lisa, come look at this," called her research partner, Dr. Kevin Walsh. He was hunched over a microscope, his face bright with excitement. Lisa walked over to him, her feet making soft sounds on the metal floor of the research station. New Horizon was not a big station, but it was home to 347 people. Scientists, engineers, doctors, and support staff all lived and worked together in the spinning cylinder that orbited the distant planet. "What did you find?" Lisa asked, looking into the microscope. "The plant cells are talking to each other," Kevin said. "They send chemical signals back and forth. It's like they have their own language." Lisa smiled. This was why she loved her job. Every day brought new discoveries. The galaxy was full of amazing life forms, and humans were just beginning to understand them all. "We need to tell the others," Lisa said. "This could change everything we know about plant communication." She walked to the communications panel and began typing her daily report. Her husband Jake would want to hear about this. He was visiting the station for a few days, taking a break from his job at the Human Navy. Jake did not talk much about his work, but Lisa knew he traveled between the stars, keeping human colonies safe. The station hummed quietly around them. In the hydroponics bay, fresh vegetables grew under artificial lights. In the engineering section, technicians kept the life support systems running. In the common areas, people ate meals together and talked about their work. Lisa finished her report and sent it to Earth. The message would take weeks to reach home, traveling through space at the speed of light. But that was normal for people who lived among the stars. "Dr. Carter, please report to the observation deck," came a voice over the intercom. Lisa made her way through the station's curved corridors. The observation deck was her favorite place on New Horizon. It had large windows that showed the stars and the planet below. Jake was there, looking out at the darkness. "Hey," she said, taking his hand. "How was your meeting with Captain Rodriguez?" "Fine," Jake said. His voice sounded tired. "Just routine stuff about supply runs." Lisa knew Jake was not telling her everything, but she did not push. Military people had their secrets. She was just happy he could visit her out here, so far from Earth. "I made a discovery today," she said, telling him about the plant communication. Jake listened and smiled. "You're amazing," he said. "The things you find out here could help people all over the galaxy." They stood together, watching the stars. Neither of them noticed the small ship that appeared at the edge of the solar system. It was sleek and dark, with weapons that could destroy a small moon. On the bridge of the alien ship, Admiral Vexthai studied the readings from his sensors. The research station looked harmless enough, but his intelligence reports said otherwise. The humans were sneaky. They hid their military bases as civilian stations. "Sir," said his weapons officer, "we have a clear shot at the target." Vexthai nodded. The Galactic Council had been watching the humans for years. They seemed peaceful, but that was just an act. Every species in the galaxy knew that humans were dangerous. They had to be stopped before they became too powerful. "The station has enhanced communication arrays," the intelligence officer reported, "and reinforced hull plating. Plus, we detected a human naval officer on board." "See?" Vexthai said to his crew. "It's a military base, just like we thought. The humans are lying about it being a research station." He was wrong, but he did not know that. The communication arrays were strong because the station was far from Earth. The hull plating was reinforced because space was dangerous. And Jake Morrison was just a husband visiting his wife. "Fire when ready," Vexthai ordered Dot back on New Horizon. Lisa was showing Jake her latest plant samples when the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. "What's happening?" Lisa asked. The station shook violently. Books fell from shelves. Equipment crashed to the floor. An alarm began to wail. "We're under attack," Jake said, his military training taking over. "We need to get to the evacuation pods." They ran through the corridors as the station shook again. And again. Other people were running too, all heading for the escape pods. Lisa saw Kevin Walsh helping an injured engineer. She saw Captain Rodriguez shouting orders to his crew. "This way," Jake said, pulling her toward the nearest pod bay. But they were too late. A massive explosion rocked the station. The hull cracked open like an egg. Air rushed out into space, carrying people and equipment with it. Lisa felt herself being pulled toward the breach. Jake grabbed her hand, holding on tight. But the force was too strong. She looked into his eyes one last time before the rushing air tore them apart. Jake was sucked out into space, his body tumbling among the debris. Lisa managed to grab onto a support beam, but she was hurt badly. Blood ran down her face. She pulled herself to an emergency panel and activated the distress beacon. Her voice was weak, but she managed to speak. "This is New Horizon Research Station. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. We are civilians. We have done nothing wrong." The station shook again. More hull sections blew out. Lisa saw the reactor room through the smoke and flames. The containment field was failing. "Please," she whispered into the communicator. "Tell Earth what happened here. Tell them we were just scientists." The reactor exploded. The shockwave tore through what was left of the station. Lisa Carter, the woman who had spent her life studying alien plants, died in the cold vacuum of space. Admiral Vex Thigh watched the destruction on his view screen. "Target destroyed," he reported to his superiors. "The human military base has been eliminated." But it had not been a military base. It had been a research station full of peaceful scientists. And humanity was about to learn what had happened to them. Captain Maria Santos was running a cargo route when she picked up the distress signal. She changed course immediately, her ship racing toward the coordinates. When she arrived, she found only debris and bodies floating in space. She managed to save 23 people from the wreckage. 23 out of 347. "What happened here?" she asked one of the survivors. "They just started shooting," Dr. Kevin Walsh said, his voice shaking. "No warning, no demands. They just killed everyone." Maria looked at the wreckage floating around her ship. These had been innocent people, scientists and engineers who had never hurt anyone. She activated her communications system and sent a message to Earth Command. Her voice was full of rage as she described what she had found. "This is Captain Santos. I'm transmitting footage of an unprovoked attack on civilians. The aliens opened fire on a research station. Hundreds of people are dead. The message would take weeks to reach Earth, but when it did, everything would change. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They thought they were destroying a military target. Instead, they had just given humanity a reason to show the galaxy what they were really capable of. And humanity had been hiding their true strength for a very long time." 3 weeks after the attack, President Catherine Walsh stood before the cameras in the White House. Her face was serious, but her voice was calm and measured. "My fellow citizens of Earth and the colonies," she began, "we have all seen the terrible footage from the New Horizon station. 324 innocent people lost their lives in an unprovoked attack. Around the world, people watched on their screens. In the Mars colonies, workers stopped their mining operations. On the space stations orbiting Jupiter, families gathered to listen. Everyone wanted to know what Earth would do. We will not respond with anger. President Walsh continued. We will not sink to the level of those who attacked us. Instead, we will seek justice through proper channels. We will work with the Galactic Council to find a peaceful solution. Many people were not happy with this response. On social media, angry comments poured in. They killed our people. One person wrote, we should fight back. Wrote another. But President Walsh finished her speech with calm words about diplomacy and patience. She asked everyone to trust the government to handle the situation properly. What the public did not know was that this speech was all an act deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. In a bunker that did not officially exist, a very different meeting was taking place. General Marcus Stone stood before a group of military leaders from all over human space. The president's speech was perfect, he said. Let them think we're weak. Let them think we're going to just file complaints and ask for meetings. The room was filled with holographic displays showing star charts. But these were not the star charts that civilians saw. These showed the real positions of human ships throughout the galaxy. How many vessels do we actually have? Asked Admiral Patricia Chun, commander of the Outer Colonies Defense Force. 2,047 combat-ready ships, General Stone replied. The Council thinks we have about 200. The room fell silent. For 40 years, humanity had been playing a careful game. They had hidden their true military strength behind a mask of peaceful exploration and trade. Every cargo ship that left Earth carried weapons powerful enough to destroy an entire city. Every research vessel was actually a disguised warship. Every colony transport was armed to the teeth. The sleeping giant protocol has worked perfectly, General Stone continued. We've been building our fleet in secret. Now it's time to wake up. On the other side of the galaxy, the Galactic Council was meeting in their great chamber. Representatives from dozens of alien species sat in a circle, discussing the human situation. Ambassador Kephalon of the Zephyrian Empire stood to speak. He was tall and thin, with blue skin and 3 eyes. His voice was smooth and confident. The attack on the human facility was regrettable, he said, but it was necessary. Our intelligence showed that the station was being used for military purposes. What evidence do you have? Asked the Altarian representative. Kephalon activated a holographic display, enhanced communication equipment, reinforced hull plating, and the presence of a human naval officer. Several council members nodded. This seemed reasonable to them. The humans are known for their deception, Kephalon continued. They hide their military activities behind civilian operations. We had to act before they became a threat. The council voted. By a narrow margin, they decided that the Zephyrian Empire would pay compensation to the families of the victims. But they would not admit any wrongdoing. The payment will be 5 million credits per victim, announced the council speaker. This should be sufficient to show our regret while maintaining the principle of galactic security. Back on Earth, the survivors of New Horizon were being interviewed by government officials. Dr. Rebecca Hayes sat in a comfortable chair, but her hands were shaking as she spoke. We were just studying plants, she said. Lisa Carter was the most peaceful person I ever knew. She wouldn't hurt a fly. None of us would. The interviewer, a woman from Earth's diplomatic corps, took careful notes. Tell me about the attack. Itself. There was no warning, Rebecca said. One moment we were working. The next moment the whole station was exploding. They didn't try to communicate. They didn't ask us to surrender. They just started killing. Similar interviews were conducted with all 23 survivors. Each person told the same story. The attack had been sudden and brutal. There had been no justification for it. 2 days later, the Galactic Council agreed to let one survivor testify before them via hologram. Dr. Rebecca Hayes found herself looking at dozens of alien faces, all staring at her with various degrees of interest and Boredom. "Please tell the council what happened," said the speaker. Rebecca took a deep breath. "We were conducting peaceful research on plant communication. The station was home to 347 people. Scientists, engineers, support staff. We had families. We had children." She paused, fighting back tears. "They destroyed us without warning. I watched my friends die. I watched the station break apart. I saw people sucked out into space. The station was equipped with military-grade communications," interrupted Ambassador Kethlon. "How do you explain that?" "We were far from Earth," Rebecca replied. "We needed strong communications to stay in touch with home. There was nothing military about it. And the reinforced hull plating? Space is dangerous. Meteorites, radiation, debris. Any station needs protection." "What about the naval officer on board?" Rebecca's voice grew angry. "Commander Morrison was visiting his wife. He was on leave. He was just a husband spending time with the woman he loved." Several council members shifted uncomfortably. But Ambassador Kethlon was not finished. "Humans are known for their emotional outbursts," he said dismissively. "These dramatics do not change the facts. The station was a military threat." The phrase human dramatics spread across the galaxy's communication networks within hours. On Earth, people were furious. On Mars, workers walked off their jobs in protest. On the outer colonies, there were calls for war. But President Walsh continued to preach patience and diplomacy. She called for calm. She asked people to trust the process. What she did not say was that the process was already in motion, in the Orion Nebula. Captain Nicole Fraser received a coded message on her personal communicator. She was aboard the HMS Retribution, a massive dreadnought that officially did not exist. The message was simple. "The giant is waking up. Prepare for dawn." Fraser smiled grimly. She had been waiting for this moment for 20 years. Around her, dozens of other ships received similar messages. Ships that had been hiding in nebulae and asteroid fields. Ships that had been disguised as civilian vessels. The human fleet was about to reveal itself. On Earth, Admiral Chun was holding a press conference. Behind her stood a group of military officers, all wearing serious expressions. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "it's time to tell you the truth about humanity's presence in space." She activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. Red dots appeared, showing the positions of human ships. There were not 200 dots, as the Council believed. There were more than 2,000. For 40 years, we have been operating under what we call the Sleeping Giant Protocol, Admiral Chun explained. "We have hidden our true military capabilities behind a facade of peaceful exploration." The reporters in the room began shouting questions, but Admiral Chun raised her hand for silence. "Every cargo ship you've seen leaving Earth carries enough firepower to level a small city. Every research vessel is actually a disguised warship. Every colony transport is armed with weapons that can crack open a moon." The room erupted in chaos. This was the biggest military secret in human history. "Why?" shouted one reporter. "Why hide our strength?" "Because peace is better than war," Admiral Chun replied. "We hoped we would never need to use these weapons. We hoped the galaxy would remain peaceful." Her expression grew hard. "But the attack on New Horizon changed everything. The aliens have given us a legitimate military target. And now they're going to learn what humanity is really capable of." The interview was broadcast across the galaxy. Within hours, every alien government knew the truth. Humanity was not weak. They had been pretending to be weak while building the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. In the council chambers, panic was setting in. Intelligence reports were flooding in from across the galaxy. Human ships were suddenly moving in ways that seemed impossible. They were appearing in places where no ship should be able to go. How many ships do they really have? Asked the Altarian. Representative. Our latest estimates suggest at least 2,000 combat vessels, replied the intelligence chief. Possibly more. The council speaker's face went pale. 2,000? We thought they had 200. They've been lying to us for decades, said Kethalon. But his voice was no longer confident. They've been building a secret fleet. A new message arrived from Earth. President Walsh was requesting an emergency session of the council. She would be coming in person, something that had not happened in over 20 years. What does she want? Asked the speaker. The message was simple and direct. The individuals responsible for the attack on New Horizon will be surrendered to human authorities within 72 hours. If they are not, humanity will withdraw from all galactic treaties and respond to this act of war accordingly. The council chamber fell silent. For the first time in centuries, someone was threatening them. NT. Deep in the Orion Nebula, where colorful gas clouds hid ships from prying eyes, Captain Nicole Fraser stood on the bridge of HMS Retribution. Around her, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. They had been hiding here for 3 years, pretending to be a mining operation. Captain, called Lieutenant Ryan Murphy from the communication station. We're receiving the activation codes. Fraser nodded. She had been waiting for this moment since she joined the secret fleet 20 years ago. Signal the other ships. It's time to drop the disguises. Outside the bridge windows, the nebula began to change. What had looked like empty space suddenly filled with ships. Dozens of them, all massive warships that had been hiding behind cloaking fields. The HMS Retribution was over 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. But it was not alone. The HM's Defiance, HM's Vengeance, HM's Thunder, and 40 other dreadnoughts materialized around it. My God, whispered Ensign Lisa Park, the newest member of the crew. I had no idea there were so many of us. Fraser smiled grimly. This is just Battle Group 7. There are 19. Other battle groups spread across the galaxy. The captain activated the ship's intercom. This is Captain Fraser speaking. For years, we have hidden in the shadows, pretending to be something we're not. The galaxy thought we were weak. They thought we were just peaceful traders and explorers. She paused, looking out at the fleet around her. 3 weeks ago, they attacked a research station and killed 324 innocent people. They called it a legitimate military target. They were wrong about that. But now, we're going to give them a real military target. Her voice grew hard. Today, we stop hiding. Today, we show them what humanity really is. On Earth, President Walsh was preparing for her trip to the Galactic Council. But first, she had one more meeting to attend out in a secret facility beneath. The Rocky Mountains, she sat across from General Stone and the other military leaders. The room's holographic displays showed human ships all across the galaxy, no longer hiding their true nature. The fleet is ready, General Stone reported. All 20 battle groups are in position. The Council's forces are completely outnumbered. Good, President Walsh said. But remember, we're not starting a war. We're ending one before it begins. She stood and walked to the main display. It showed the positions of all the major alien fleets. The Zephyrian Empire had the largest navy, with about 800 ships. The Altarian Collective had 600. The Regelian Republic had 400. Combined, all the council races have about 3,000 ships, she said. We have over 2,000, and ours are more advanced. But numbers aren't everything. We need to be smart about this. Admiral. Chun stepped forward. What are your orders, Madam President? We give them exactly what they asked for, Walsh replied. They want to see our military capabilities? We'll show them. But we'll do it in a way that saves lives, not destroys them. Meanwhile, on the Council homeworld, panic was spreading through the government buildings. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy. Human ships were suddenly appearing everywhere, and they were nothing like what the Council had expected. "This report can't be accurate," said the Council speaker, reading from a datapad. "It says the humans have faster-than-light travel that's 30% more efficient than ours." "It's true," replied the intelligence chief. "We've been underestimating them completely. Their ships are faster, their weapons are more powerful, and their technology is decades ahead of ours." Ambassador Kethlin was pacing back and forth, his three eyes darting nervously. "This is impossible. We've been monitoring them for years. They were supposed to be a minor species. They were hiding their true capabilities," said the Altarian representative. "The question is, what do we do now?" Before anyone could answer, a new message arrived. It was from President Walsh herself. "I will be arriving at the Council homeworld in 18 hours, the message said. "I will be bringing a small security detail. I suggest you prepare for a very important conversation." The Council members looked at each other with growing fear. If the humans were as powerful as the reports suggested, then everything had changed that far across the galaxy. The Zephyrian military was mobilizing. Admiral Vex Thai, the commander who had ordered the attack on New Horizon, stood in his fleet's command center. "The humans are trying to intimidate us," he told his officers. "But we have the largest fleet in the galaxy. We have 800 ships. Even if they have more than we thought, we can still defeat them." His second-in-command, Captain Dracolon, looked worried. "Sir, the intelligence reports suggest they have over 2,000 ships." "Intelligence reports can be wrong," Vex Thai replied. "The humans are good at deception, but they're not that good. I estimate they have maybe 500 ships total." He activated a holographic display showing the Zephyrian fleet. "We'll show them what real military power looks like. Order the fleet to set course for the Sol system. We'll end this threat once and for all." What Admiral Vex Thai did not know was that his every move was being watched. Deep in space, disguised as a small asteroid, a human observation post tracked his fleet's movements. "Captain Fraser," came the transmission, "Zephyrian Battle Fleet Alpha is moving towards Sol. 500 ships, led by Admiral Vex Thai himself." Fraser smiled on the bridge of HMS Retribution. "Perfect. Signal Admiral Chun. Tell her the fish is taking the bait." The trap was being set. The Zephyrian fleet thought they were going to attack the human homeworld. Instead, they were flying into the most sophisticated military ambush in galactic history. On Earth, President Walsh was boarding her ship for the trip to the Council homeworld. The ship looked like a normal diplomatic vessel, but like everything else humans had built, it was not what it seemed. "Are you ready for this?" asked General Stone. "As ready as anyone can be," Walsh replied. "The next few days will determine whether we have peace or war for the next century." The ship lifted off and headed for the stars. But it was not alone. Hidden throughout the solar system, dozens of human warships began moving into position. Back at the Council homeworld, the various alien governments were trying to decide what to do. Some wanted to surrender the officers responsible for the New Horizon attack. Others wanted to fight. "If we give in to their demands," argued the Rigelian representative, "we'll look weak. Every species in the galaxy will think they can threaten U.S. "If we don't give in," replied the Altarian representative, "we might find ourselves in a war we can't win." The debate continued for hours. But while they argued, human ships were moving into position all around the galaxy. The sleeping giant protocol was being completely abandoned. Captain Ryan Murphy, now commanding his own ship, the USS Defiance, watched as his fleet took position near the galactic trade routes. His orders were simple. If the Council rejected humanity's demands, He was to stop all trade with human space. "Sir," called his communications officer, "we're getting reports from all over the galaxy. Human ships are revealing themselves everywhere." Murphy nodded. "Good. Let them see what we're really capable of." In the Tau Ceti system, a human research station suddenly deployed massive weapon arrays. In the Vega system, a mining operation revealed itself to be a fortress that could defend an entire solar system. All across human space, the pretense was being dropped. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had been preparing for war while preaching peace. Dr. Rebecca Hayes, the survivor from New Horizon, was watching the news in her hospital room on Earth. The reporters were talking about fleet movements and military buildups. Is this what Lisa would have wanted? She asked herself. Lisa Carter had been a woman of peace, dedicated to understanding alien life forms. But then she remembered the attack, the brutal, unprovoked assault on innocent people. The way the aliens had dismissed their suffering as human dramatics. Maybe Lisa would not have wanted war, but she would have wanted justice. President Walsh's ship arrived at the Council homeworld exactly on schedule. As it approached the docking bay, alien sensors detected something unusual. "The human ship is heavily armed," reported the scanner operator. "It's not a diplomatic vessel. It's a warship in disguise." The Council speaker felt a chill of fear. Even their diplomatic ships were weapons of war. Walsh stepped off her ship with a small security detail. She walked calmly through the spaceport, ignoring the stares of the alien beings around her. She had come to deliver an ultimatum, but she had also come to offer a choice. The galaxy could continue to underestimate humanity and face the consequences, or they could learn to treat humans as equals and build a better future together. Either way, the age of thinking humans were weak was about to end forever. In the Orion Nebula, Captain Fraser received her final orders. "Battle positions," she commanded. "The Zephyrian fleet will be here in 6 hours." Around her, the human fleet prepared for the first real test of their hidden power. The aliens wanted to see what humanity was capable of in war. They were about to find out. Admiral Vex Thai stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Zephyrian battlecruiser Dominion. Around him, 500 warships moved through space in perfect formation. This was the largest fleet the Zephyrian Empire had ever assembled. "How long?" "Until we reach the Sol system?" he asked his navigation officer. 4 hours, sir. The humans will never expect an attack this large." Vex Thai smiled with satisfaction. The humans had been making threats, but they were about to learn what real military power looked like. His fleet could destroy entire planets. "Send a message to the Council," he ordered. "Tell them that in 4 hours, the human threat will be eliminated." What Admiral Vex Thai did not know was that his fleet was being watched by dozens of hidden sensors. Every human ship in the galaxy knew exactly where he was and where he was going. Captain Ryan Murphy stood on the bridge of USS Defiance, positioned at the edge of the Sol system. His ship was one of 30 vessels waiting in ambush. They had been there for 2 days, completely invisible to alien sensors. Contact from Admiral Chun, his communications officer, reported. "The Zephyrian fleet is 2 hours out." "Good," Murphy said. "Signal all ships. Prepare for Operation Nosarap." The human fleet had been planning this moment for weeks. They knew exactly how the aliens would attack, and they had prepared accordingly. Meanwhile, on the Council homeworld, President Walsh sat across from the assembled representatives. The meeting room was tense with nervous energy. "You have 18 hours left," she said calmly. "After that, we will consider your refusal to cooperate an act of war." Ambassador Kethlon leaned forward. "You cannot threaten the entire Galactic Council. We represent 47 different species." "I'm not threatening anyone," Walsh replied. "I'm simply stating facts. You attacked our civilians. We want the people responsible to face justice. It's very simple. The council speaker, a creature that looked like a giant mantis, clicked his mandibles nervously. Even if we wanted to comply, we cannot set a precedent of surrendering our military officers to alien courts. Then you have made your choice, Walsh said, standing up. I hope you can live with the consequences. She walked toward the door, but the Altarian representative called out to her. Wait, what exactly are you planning to do? Walsh turned back with a cold smile. Admiral Vexthai is currently leading a fleet of 500 ships toward our home system. He thinks he's going to destroy Earth and end the human threat once and for all. The room fell silent. No one had expected this information. In about 2 hours, Walsh continued, he's going to discover that we've been hiding our true military capabilities for 40 years. I suspect it will be quite educational for him. She left the room, leaving the alien representatives to stare at each other in growing panic. Back in space, the Zephyrian fleet was approaching the Sol system. Admiral Vexthai studied the sensor readings with satisfaction. I'm detecting minimal human fleet activity, his scanner operator reported. Maybe 20 ships total. Excellent, Vexthai said. They're not even trying to defend their homeworld. This will be easier than I thought. His fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. The stars of Sol system spread out before them, with the blue-green planet Earth visible in the distance. Begin the attack, Vexthai ordered. But before his weapons could fire, something impossible happened. The space around his fleet suddenly filled with human ships. Not 20 ships, but hundreds of them. They seemed to appear from nowhere, surrounding the Zephyrian fleet completely. Where did they come from? Vexthai demanded. I don't know, sir. His sensor operator replied. They weren't there a second ago. Captain Murphy's voice came over the communications channel. Admiral Vexthai, this is Captain Murphy of the USS Defiance. You are surrounded and outgunned. I suggest you surrender immediately. Vexthai stared at the tactical display. His 500 ships were completely surrounded by what looked like twice that number of human vessels. This is impossible, he said. Our intelligence reports said they only had 200 ships total. Your intelligence reports were wrong, Murphy replied. We've been hiding our true strength for decades. Now I'm going to ask you one more time. Will you surrender? Vexthai's pride would not let him back down. Never. All ships, open fire. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire with everything they had. Beams of energy and missiles streaked toward the human ships. It should have been a devastating attack, but something strange happened. The human ships did not explode. Instead, they seemed to absorb the weapon's fire without taking any damage. Our weapons aren't working, shouted the gunnery officer. Keep firing. Vexthai ordered. The human ships did not return fire immediately. Instead, Captain Murphy's voice came over the communications again. Admiral, we're going to give you a demonstration of our technology. This is what we call a shield penetrator. Hey! Human ships fired their weapons. But instead of energy beams or missiles, they fired something that looked like small bolts of lightning. The bolts passed right through the Zephyrian shields as if they were not there. One by one, the Zephyrian ships began to shut down. Their engines stopped working. Their weapons went offline. Their life support systems continued to function, but everything else simply died. What's happening? Vexthai demanded. We're using electromagnetic pulse weapons, Murphy explained. They're designed to disable ships without destroying them. We could have blown you all to pieces, but we're trying to avoid unnecessary casualties. Within 20 minutes, the entire Zephyrian fleet was drifting helplessly in space. 500 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy had been defeated without a single human ship taking damage. This is impossible, Vexthai whispered. We're the most powerful military force in the galaxy. No, Murphy said. You were the most powerful military force that anyone knew about. We've been the most powerful military force for decades. We just didn't tell anyone. News of the battle spread across the galaxy within hours. The impossible had happened. The mighty Zephyrian Empire, with the largest fleet in known space, had been defeated by humans without losing a single ship. On the Council homeworld, panic set in. If the humans could defeat the Zephyrians that easily, what could they do to everyone else? We need to surrender, said the Altarian representative. We can't fight this kind of technology. If we surrender now, we'll look weak, argued the Rigelian representative. Our people will never forgive us. But the council speaker was already making calculations. Look at the tactical reports, he said, his voice shaking. Bay disabled. 500 ships in 20 minutes, without taking a single casualty. If they can do that to the Zephyrians, what do you think they'll do to us? Ambassador Kethalon was staring at the battle footage in disbelief. They said their weapons could penetrate any shield. That technology shouldn't exist. But it does exist, said the Altarian representative, and the humans have it. More reports were flooding in from across the galaxy. Human ships were revealing themselves everywhere. What had looked like peaceful cargo vessels were uncloaking to show massive weapon arrays. Research stations were deploying defense systems that could protect entire star systems. On Earth, Admiral Chun was addressing the media again. Behind her, a holographic display showed the disabled Zephyrian fleet floating helplessly in space. The battle at Sol was not a victory, she said. It was a demonstration. We could have destroyed those ships and everyone on them. Instead, we chose to disable them. This is the difference between human military doctrine and alien military doctrine. A reporter raised her hand. Admiral, how long have you been planning this? 40 years, Chun replied. Since the first contact with alien species, we've been preparing for the possibility that diplomacy might fail. We hoped it never would. We did everything we could to avoid this moment. Another reporter called out, What happens now? That depends on the Galactic Council, Chun said. We've given them a simple choice. Hand over the people responsible for murdering our civilians, or face the consequences of their actions. In space near the Sol system, Captain Murphy was supervising the rescue operations. Human ships were providing life support to the disabled Zephyrian vessels while their crews figured out what to do next. Captain, his communications officer called out, We're receiving a transmission from Admiral Vexthai. Murphy nodded. Put him through. Vexthai's image appeared on the main screen. The proud alien commander looked defeated and confused. I don't understand, Vexthai said. How did you hide this technology? How did you build such a fleet without anyone knowing? We learned from history, Murphy replied. On Earth, we had a saying, Speak softly and carry a big stick. We've been speaking very softly for 40 years. But your ships, your weapons, they're decades ahead of anything we have. Murphy smiled grimly. That's what happens when a species spends 40 years preparing for war, while everyone else assumes they're peaceful farmers and traders. Vexthai was silent for a moment. Then he asked, What are you going to do with us? That depends, Murphy said. Are you the officer who ordered the attack on New Horizon? Yes. Then you're going to face trial for the murder of 324 innocent people. Your crews will be returned home safely after we repair your ships. Meanwhile, on other human ships throughout the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. Alien fleets that had been moving to. 6 months after the battle at Sol, Admiral Vexthai stood in a courtroom on Earth. The room was packed with reporters from across the galaxy, all watching as the trial of the century continued. You are charged with the murder of 324 civilians, said Judge Margaret Foster. How do you plead? Vexthai looked tired and defeated. His blue skin had grown pale during his time in human custody. "Guilty," he said quietly. The courtroom erupted in whispers. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. The alien commander who had started everything was finally facing Justice. Dr. Rebecca Hayes sat in the front row, tears in her eyes. She had waited months to hear those words. Behind her sat the families of the other victims, people who had lost loved ones in the unprovoked attack. "Before I pass sentence," Judge Foster continued, "I want to play something for the court." The lights dimmed and a holographic display activated. Dr. Lisa Carter appeared, recording her final research notes just hours before the attack. She was smiling as she talked about the plant communication discoveries. "These organisms might hold the key to solving food shortages across the galaxy," Lisa's recording said. "If we can understand how they share nutrients, we might be able to help feed billions of people." The recording switched to the attack itself. Security cameras showed the research station exploding, people being sucked out into space, families torn apart in seconds. When it ended, the courtroom was silent. 324 people died that day, Judge Foster said. Scientists, engineers, doctors, teachers. People who dedicated their lives to making the galaxy a better place. And you killed them because you thought they were soldiers. Vexthai said nothing. What could he say? "However," the judge continued, "this court recognizes that you believed you were acting on legitimate intelligence. Therefore, you are sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole in 25 years. It was a fair sentence, and everyone knew it. The humans could have executed him, but they chose mercy instead." Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council chambers, a very different scene was taking place. The great circular room had been redesigned. Where once the council speaker had sat alone at the center, there were now 5 seats. 4 for the traditional council leaders, and 1 for humanity. President Walsh took her place as the first human member of the Galactic Security Council. It was a position that came with enormous responsibility. "The first order of business," she announced, "is the creation of new protocols for military action. The Galactic Defense Doctrine, which had allowed the attack on New Horizon, was officially repealed. In its place came the New Horizon Accords, named after the destroyed research station. Under the new rules, no military action could be taken against civilian targets without clear and present evidence of military activity. Research stations, hospitals, schools, and colonies were all protected under galactic law. "Never again," Walsh said as she signed the accords, "will civilians pay the price for military paranoia." The other council members signed as well. They had no choice. The human fleet was still out there, no longer hiding but not threatening either. It was a reminder of what happened when someone attacked innocent people. But the most important ceremony was yet to come. In the space where New Horizon had been destroyed, human engineers were building something new. It was not a weapon or a fortress. It was a memorial. Dr. Rebecca Hayes stood with the other survivors as the memorial was dedicated. It was a beautiful structure made of crystal and metal, with the names of all 324 victims carved into its surface. "Dr. Lisa Carter," Rebecca read, aloud as she found her friend's name, xenobiologist, age 34. She believed that all life in the galaxy was connected. Nearby, Commander Jake Morrison's parents stood beside his name. The president herself had presented them with his Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration humans could give. "These people died because someone made assumptions," President Walsh said in her dedication speech. "They assumed that humans were weak. They assumed that our research station was a military base. They assumed that violence was the answer to their fears." She paused, looking out at the crowd of humans and aliens who had come to pay their respects. Let this memorial remind us all that assumptions can be deadly. Let it remind us that civilian lives are sacred. And let it remind us that peace is always better than war, but only when everyone chooses peace. The memorial was not just for humans. Representatives from dozens of alien species had come to honor the victims. Even some Zephyrians had made the journey, bringing flowers from their homeworld. After the ceremony, Dr. Rebecca Hayes was approached by a young Zephyrian scientist named Kaledi. "I wanted to apologize," the alien said. "My people made a terrible mistake." Rebecca looked at the young scientist, who was about the same age Lisa had been. "Your people didn't make the mistake. A few individuals did. Don't carry guilt that isn't yours." "But what can we do to make things right?" Rebecca smiled for the first time in months. Lisa's research on plant communication was almost finished when she died. Maybe your people could help complete it. She would have liked that. And so, in a strange twist of fate, the attack that was meant to stop human science actually led to the greatest scientific collaboration in galactic history. Zephyrian botanists worked with human xenobiologists to finish Lisa's work. Within a year, they had developed new farming techniques that increased crop yields by 300%. The technology was shared freely with all species, helping to end hunger on dozens of worlds. Meanwhile, the human fleet was changing too. Captain Nicole Fraser was promoted to admiral and given command of the new galactic peacekeeping force. Her ships patrolled the space lanes, protecting merchant vessels and colonies from pirates and raiders. "It's strange," she said to Captain Murphy during a joint patrol near the Rigelian border. "We spent 40 years hiding our strength, and now we're using it to protect everyone." Murphy nodded. Maybe that was always the plan. Build up power, so we could keep the peace. The human ships were no longer disguised as cargo vessels or research stations. They flew openly through space, their advanced technology visible for all to see. But they were not conquerors. They were guardians. On Earth, the sleeping giant protocol was officially retired. In its place came the open door policy. Humanity would share its technology with any species that wanted to learn, as long as they promised to use it peacefully. Some alien governments worried about humans becoming too powerful, but most recognized that humanity had already been the most powerful force in the galaxy for decades. The fact that they had hidden their strength instead of using it for conquest proved that they could be trusted. The Altarian Collective was the first to request human technology sharing. They wanted to learn about the shield-penetrating weapons. But for defensive purposes, only the Rigelian Republic asked for help with their medical technology. Human advances in healing had far exceeded what other species had achieved. Even the Zephyrian Empire, humbled by their defeat, requested assistance. With their food production systems, President Walsh approved all these requests. "Knowledge shared is knowledge doubled," she said. "If we can help other species improve their lives, we should." 5 years after the New Horizon incident, the galaxy was a very different place. Wars between species had nearly ended. Trade was booming. Scientific collaboration was producing discoveries that no single species could have achieved alone. Dr. Rebecca Hayes had become the director of the New Horizon Institute, a research center dedicated to interspecies cooperation. She worked with scientists from across the galaxy, continuing the peaceful mission that Lisa Carter had died for. "I think she would be proud," Rebecca said, looking at a picture of her old friend. "We turned her death into something that made the galaxy better." The memorial where New Horizon had been destroyed became a pilgrimage site. Young people from dozens of species came to see it and learn about the importance of understanding before action. And in the human fleet, a new tradition began. Every ship carried a plaque with the names of the New Horizon victims. It served as a reminder of why they fought, not for conquest or glory, But to protect innocent people everywhere, Captain Murphy, now an admiral himself, kept Dr. Lisa Carter's research notes on his personal desk. They reminded him that the greatest victories were not won with weapons, but with knowledge and understanding. The galaxy had learned a painful lesson. Humanity was not weak, and they were not to be underestimated. But more importantly, they had learned that humans valued life above all else. The Council's worst mistake had been attacking New Horizon. But perhaps their greatest fortune was that they had attacked a species that responded to violence, not with vengeance, but with justice. And in the end, that made all the difference. The war that could have destroyed civilizations never happened. Instead, the galaxy got peace, prosperity, and the knowledge that somewhere out there, someone was watching over them. The humans had awakened from their long sleep, and they had chosen to be protectors rather than conquerors. It was, perhaps, the best possible outcome from the worst possible mistake.